Hi, this is your host Swapnil Bhartiya, and we are back with our uber popular prediction video series. And today we have with us Peter Corless, Director of Product Marketing at StarTree. Peter, it's great to have you on this show.
It's always great to be here.
It's my pleasure. And of course, I'm going to ask you to grab your crystal ball and share your predictions with us. But before that, quickly remind our viewers what is StarTree all about?
Sure. So StarTree is a managed real-time analytics platform for data at speed and scale. So if you have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of customers that are all driving insights on mobile or web apps, that's what StarTree can be used for. So whether that's fintech applications or social media, ad tech, martech platforms, StarTree can help drive those analytics at petabyte scale in single-digit seconds or milliseconds.
Excellent, thank you. Now it's time for you to grab your crystal ball or magic wand, whatever technology you're using for predictions, and share with us what predictions you have for us.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing we need to acknowledge is that 2024 threw us a lot of curveballs. So anybody who thinks that they can say exactly what's going to happen in 2025, we're going to all be shocked by things that nobody had really foreseen, right? I think, for instance, like if you take a look at how everybody is adopting Iceberg all of a sudden, right, or putting all their data storage in S3, I think that those were two phenomena that even though people could have predicted it, I think the rate of adoption happened much faster than many people were anticipating. So let's take a look at what are the trends we're already seeing 2024, but I think are going to escalate and again take people who haven't been paying attention by surprise in 2025. The first thing is observability. Now, we've already been talking about observability 2.0, but I think that there's going to be two different phenomena that are occurring. Number one is the consolidation of multiple observability platforms into potentially single source systems. And what I mean by that is right now, a lot of companies run their metrics and their logs and their traces and their events all in different data storage systems. And there's a drive to consolidate all that into a kind of a single data lake or real-time data repository for analysis. And we're hearing already that a lot of people are looking at solutions like ours to do that kind of consolidation. But at the same time, Observability 2.0, especially OTel, Open Telemetry, is allowing people to break out their monolithic systems, and you're starting to see the disaggregation of observability between visualization, data storage, and the data collection agencies. So people are going to be able to mix and match much better, but they still want to have a kind of a common repository for all these events. So it'll be both a busting out as well as consolidation there. I think the other thing we're going to see in 2025 is companies already have some of the tools to do real-time data pipelines. But I think what you're going to see more and more of is the productization of end-to-end solutions for stream processing and real-time analytics at the tail end of that as more of a kind of a recipe. So we're seeing like the Kafka, Flink, and Pinot protocols, like each of those are being put together in a kind of an assembly line thing. And just like you saw batch data pipelines assembling over the last couple of decades, you're going to see real-time data pipeline systems like that evolve as well, and much faster than people expect. I think also on top of that, people are going to start seeing data governance. Schema management is a huge thing. And how do you manage real-time data streams that are suddenly changing the schema in real time? That's going to lead towards a lot more automation of this than I think that we've seen before. People are going to start demanding pauseless ingestion. They just can't afford for their apps to have 5 or 10-minute delays. Everything needs to be real time. So the kinds of tools and services we've seen for ETL, that's fine, but you have 4 to 6 hours before the next batch is due, so you can fix your broken data pipelines. When things are in real time, you have no grace period. There's no downtime. And so you're going to start seeing a lot more enterprise level industrial strength solutions for real-time data pipelines coming up. And I think the last thing that we can't ignore is the effect that Gen AI has had on real-time data. Again, you take a look at these LLMs, and a lot of them were trained on batch data, static data sources. But people are going to try and see, well, how do I combine that with my real-time information? How do I combine sources of truth of real-time data with these generative AI capabilities? I don't want hallucinations. I do want this thing making commitments for my company that might be legally binding. So I need to have a combination of sources of truth with the conversational Gen AI capabilities. And so that's where you're seeing retrieval augmented generation, RAG. And you're going to see a lot more solutions where people are combining the power of an AI with the power of a transactional or analytical processing system that is, again, where you're going to get things like pricing. You're going to get legal terms and conditions. And there's going to be more of a mixing of this. And I think that there's a benefit in both directions. I think that these systems will be able to make better AI systems. And I think AI is going to be able to make better databases. As an example, we're seeing that an AI system might be able to do performance management. SQL experts are not a dime a dozen, but there's tons of people who are writing SQL statements that you want to have it be performant, et cetera. And so we're seeing that we can take these systems and train AI to teach you how to make very tight, very fast, very performant queries. And that democratizes these systems. So AI can make a better database as well as the database can make a better AI. And I think that these are the trends that we're going to see in 2025.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing these predictions. Now, what kind of challenges you see are going to be there in 2025, not only for the whole industry, but even for StarTree to tackle?
I think the biggest thing is that you have different roles in companies. Platform engineers need their kinds of tools. Systems reliability engineers, right? SREs, they need their own set of tools. And I think that you're going to see, again, it's one thing to run something in a lab or in an R&D project. It's another thing to run it in production at scale. And I think that what you're seeing now is things like, again, real-time data pipelines, they're needing to be hardened. They need to be industrialized. They need to be given quality of life improvements so that your teams know how to run this stuff at scale and speed with a level of reliability that you can bet the bank on. And I think that those are the kinds of things that we're also going to see is, again, more ways of, for instance, how do I kill an unbounded query, right? You can't have the enterprise brought down because of one bad query. So, query management or resource isolation is going to be big. I think you're taking a look with the cloud, spend management is a huge issue as well. And so being able to do dynamic scaling up, but also scaling down to zero, or mixing and matching. Again, the reason why you're seeing so much stuff being offloaded to S3 is because it's cost effective. But you're going to want to combine S3 storage with very fast NVMe storage and you want to tailor a tiered storage solutions for when you need performance and when you need lowest cost to serve. And I think that these are the kinds of things that are going to happen. None of this is new, but people are going to really make sure that their offerings are going to conform with customer requirements, which are increasingly price sensitive, performance sensitive, and again, tailoring these solutions for different use cases.
I also want to ask, all of us, we have a vision and this is where we want things to be. This is where we want the industry to be. So what are the things that are on the wish list that you're like, hey, I wish those things will happen in 2025, but somewhere deep down in your heart that no, that might not happen. So what are those?
I'm just going to throw this out here. A lot of people want to have one, right? A lot of people want to have, let's say, one data lake file format, right? And you're seeing the drive for Iceberg or Hootie or Delta Lake, right? And people want to pretend as if all data can be put down in a single file format, right? But the thing is that there are different file formats for different reasons and different use cases. And so, for instance, people talk about column store databases for real-time analytics, but our segment store in Apache Pinot, just as an example, is very different from, let's say, a Parquet file or an Iceberg table because it's tailored for real-time analytics. It's not just a column store. It's a column store designed to be read and written to very quickly for real-time analytics. And I think that that's going to be a continuing pressure. People want to simplify their stacks. People want to have just one thing to worry about. But I think that there's reasons why we need to design for purpose. And whatever you're optimizing for, you're optimizing away from something else. And that's the reason why we're going to continue to see a complexity where maybe not one table will, in the darkness, bind them all, like the One Ring, right? It's the reason why people will still have design for purpose tools and utilities. Maybe for observability, there is a database that you need to have that's separate from, your typical data warehouse, et cetera, because it's designed for time series, right? And I think that that's going to be the kind of thing that we're going to see is the dynamic tension towards that demand to consolidate versus the need for design for purpose tools and services.
Now, if you look at these predictions, challenges, and visual thinking, what is going to be the focus of company 2025?
I think for StarTree, we're seeing ourselves pulled into Observability 2.0. We did not begin as an observability database. It was designed for LinkedIn, right, for their social media platform. But increasingly what we're seeing is that observability is a close companion to whatever the business applications that people are building. So for instance, WebEx began using us during the pandemic when they began using Apache Pinot so that they could provide statistics and analytics for their customers, right? But then they also realized that they needed to use the same kind of systems to power their observability. What was the jitter? What was the latency? Right? And so you're seeing more close coupling of business applications and the observability tools to manage and support those. Same way we have payment gateways that are being powered at, let's say, Razorpay. And then you need to have API observability to make sure that those APIs are up for their customers and users, right? So I think that what we're seeing is the need to kind of not leave observability as an afterthought, but to build it into the application infrastructure and architecture from the get-go. And so that's why we're going to be seeing ourselves pulled more and more towards observability use cases because it's being designed all at a go. That the application logic and the observability logic are all part and parcel of that initial first customer delivery, that initial rollout.
Peter, thank you so much for taking time out today and share your predictions with us. Of course, I would love to have you again on the show next year to hold a scorecard and see how many predictions turn out to be true and to get the next set of predictions. But I really appreciate your time today. Thank you. And I look forward to talk to you again soon. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.